Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over Invest 98L over parts of the Bahamas, moving into parts of Florida, and then moving northeast towards the Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, where we will be seeing more problems from rainfall and flooding, maybe even winds if it gets close enough to the North Carolina coast especially. Now, there is something over the Gulf I am watching near Louisiana. I'm not expecting it to become anything tropical, but I am expecting some of those flooding rains to come into parts of Louisiana too. So I just did make a video on this. Y'all won't see it. Won't be uploaded. But pretty much what happened was I made a video for it, and then the National Hurricane Center, 2 minutes later, when I'm about to upload it, changes their forecast to a 50% chance, and just 2 minutes ago it was a 30% chance. So we're going to go ahead and start over and do going over the 50% chance. But I do hope y'all enjoyed today's video. If you do, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. And let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see right here what it does say as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Satellite and service observations do show that a broad area of low pressure has formed. So we have saw a low pressure form, as you will see when I show you the satellite loop. And pretty much it's over the central Bahamas. There's a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms that extend eastward over parts of the western Atlantic for a few hundred miles. So this is a pretty broad system, as it did say. It has that broad low pressure. So usually with these broad low pressures, from what we did see with Barry, you can have, I need to reduce that. Okay. If we were to look over here, this is where the low pressure is right now on that X. But sometimes, if it's moving this way, sometimes it's so broad that the center could relocate over here, and then it goes up that way. So that's always a concern when it comes to these broad area of low pressures, just because they can change the center really quickly, because we have so much of a broad area that we're covering, which is very concerning. But pretty much what it's saying is, during the next several days, a tropical depression could form over the weekend or early next week, while the system moves near the coast of east central Florida and then offshore to the southeast United States coast. So it's pretty much just saying it's going to be moving where this orange shaded area is, anywhere in there. We really don't know yet. We will still see a lot of locally heavy rains and flooding over portions of central and north in the northwestern Bahamas and the east central and southeast Florida Peninsula during the next few days. So really it's just saying, regardless of development, if we don't see any development, there's still a chance, not a chance, but we will still see a lot of those rains that could flood out a lot of areas. So we do have a 50% chance over the next 5 days of this forming and a 30% chance over the next 2 days. So that has been raised since this morning. This morning I think we are at a 20 or 30% chance for the 5-day. So it has been raised. There's definitely way more confidence, which is a sign that it's a better sign that it's going to start forming. So as I was talking about, we do have these two areas that I'm watching. The area over the Bahamas is what I'm really watching, but over here we have a lot of disorganized showers that could bring showers and thunderstorms that will bring a lot of that moisture up into parts of Florida and bring Louisiana and bring some of those flooding rains. But you can see right here, this is where I'm really watching. You can kind of see where that center of the low pressure is, and then you have all the moisture around it, and you can see a few hundred miles out we do have that moisture too. So it's really been throughout the day getting more impressive. If we were to look at earlier today, you could see it looked like that, but now it looks something like that. So it's way more organized. You can see where we're starting to get that center to start to develop along a lot of the Bahamas. We're getting a lot of those heavier thunderstorms to kind of come in and there. And we're seeing quite a bit happening across a lot of these areas of Invest 98L. So it's very concerning that we are seeing this happening. But we're going to go ahead and look at the European model. And you can see how the European model does have, where it does say with the satellite imagery, you can see how we do have a lot of that moisture and rain over parts of the Bahamas, and a lot of that moisture over parts of the Gulf Coast. So if we were to move into your Friday afternoon, so this is tomorrow afternoon, you can see we have a lot of this moisture across the Gulf, bringing a lot of rains to the Louisiana area. But my main focus is right here. You can see we have a lot of this rain near the Bahamas and the Florida coast. Pretty much just Florida. And you can see how it is bringing a lot of rain. And later on down the line, you'll see why I'm saying this later. But there's a lot of that moisture over the just the southeast from a lot of daytime heating and just stuff coming in from the Gulf also. But I will tell you why I said that in just a little bit. But if we were to move on to your Saturday morning, you can see how it really does start to get a little bit more organized when it comes to thunderstorms and just really getting together that low pressure. It's really starting to get more organized, and you can see across the Gulf we still do have these rains in Houston, parts of Louisiana. New Orleans, you're not directly in it yet, but you will be once I get later on in the model run. But if we were to move on to your Saturday night, this is when this starts to take a little bit of a northeastern turn. Now, how quick we do take that northeastern turn is still the question. If it does something like this and takes a little bit longer to take that northeastern turn, we could see something like this happening, which is the worst case scenario. But if we do see something like this happening and it goes out that quickly, it could go out way quicker and not look as bad. But right now what it is saying is something like this, and it'll go something like that. So this is in the middle, good impact, bad impacts in some areas where we're, how would I say this? Where the impacts aren't going to be as bad as they could be, but you will still see these impacts. Okay, if we move into your Sunday morning, this is when I do want to talk about what I was talking about across the southeast. You can see we have a lot of this moisture across the southeast, and you can see how the system does start to get way more organized. We have really warm waters, high 80s, even some 90s in this area, and you can see how it's starting to look like a tropical system, definitely by your Sunday. And you can see how all this moisture is starting to feed into the system. So all that moisture I was talking about in the southeast is going to start feeding into the system especially. And that is really concerning because this could cause some rapid development, which I don't think they're really looking at right now. But that does concern me for later on around your Sunday. That does really concern me. That could really strengthen this system really fast. And if it's closer to the coast, it's not looking good for anyone across the southeast coast, if that does happen. But you can see across the Gulf near the Louisiana coast, you will see how there's just a lot of rain. Now, if we move later on in the model run around your 2 a.m., let's go to 5 a.m. on Monday. You can see this is when this starts to get really close to the southeast coast. Very concerning right here. North Carolina, you're sticking out. You can see how the North Carolina coast really does stick out. It's just sticking out and saying hi. I'm right here. You can really see that. South Carolina and Georgia, you're kind of hiding behind North Carolina, and then once you see North Carolina, it's right there in the middle of it, sticking out, and that is not good because that's just how those islands are. And you can see how close that center is to the coast. It's causing a lot of these storms to come in the outer bands across a lot of these areas across parts of the North Carolina coast. And if we were to look at the winds, and especially the wind gusts, you can see there are some pretty good wind gusts of 30 mile per hour. That's not crazy, but sometimes you can see those higher wind gusts. So especially if this was to move in a little bit more west than expected, we could see some pretty bad impacts across a lot of the North Carolina area. So really Monday is our impact day across North Carolina, and by your Monday night, it is expected to move out right now. By right now is what it's saying. We'll still have some of that moisture left over from this system. But if we were to move into your Tuesday, you can see how this does start to move out. Your Wednesday, it's completely out of here. Brushing an island right here. We'll have to see what happens right there. But you can see brushing an island, so we can't forget them. And then Thursday, you can see how it is right here. And then your Friday, it's still moving. And then by your Saturday, it does get a little bit close to the St. John's area over here. You can see where St. John's is. but we will have to see. This little island right here in parts of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. Uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure. If not, you know where that is. But that's what we're seeing with timing and impacts right there, especially once it gets out of the southeast coast. We are going to have to see what it does after. There's still the question up in the air. Could it hit somewhere near Nova Scotia or around here? We will have to see what does happen. If this does take that western tick, there will be a lot of areas from America to Canada that will be affected way worse than anticipated right now. Now, if we were to look at the rainfall right now, you can see how across a lot of the North Carolina coast, maybe upwards of 6 inches of rain, if we were to round that up. That'd be around 6 inches of rain. Right off the coast, there are some of those higher rains. A foot of rain, you just saw 11 inches of rain. Near a foot of rain across where we did see that. I saw it for a second. But there are those really intense rains that are just east of North Carolina and a lot of the southeast coast, I would say. Now, parts of but the northern Bahamas especially, we're expecting 5 inches of rain. If we were to move into the central Bahamas where it is right now, maybe an additional 2 to 3 inches of rain. The same way across a lot of the Florida coast, an additional 2 to 3 inches of rain. South Carolina coast shouldn't worry too much, maybe 1 to 2 inches. If this does move a little bit more west, we should be worrying a little bit. Should be worrying more. And finally, if we were to go over to Louisiana, we're going to zoom in over here because I am going to show you this feature really, really quick. If we were to move on to your Wednesday, Tuesday. So we did have to look at this other system for a little bit. But if we were to look at your Monday across a lot of the Louisiana coast, we are seeing a lot of those rains across a lot of these areas. That's very concerning. And you can see Sunday it's the same way, Saturday it's the same way, and then on your Friday it definitely does start to move in. So if we were to look at your rain totals after this event, you can see how we are expecting maybe 7 inches of rain on the very barrier islands. But if we were to move into New Orleans, around 3 inches, Lake Charles, around 2 inches. Of course, in those thunderstorms, you can get higher amounts in those heavier downpours, but especially parts of the where this it's just like North Carolina where it does stick out. This one just sticks out into the Gulf. You can see some pretty high totals. Just as big as that tropical system is, it has just as much as that tropical system, even though it's will not be a named tropical system. So you really can't ever look at a name when it comes to these disturbances, if that's what you want to call it. So because it's the same impact when it comes to rain. So you really can't just say, oh, it's named, it's going to be worse than this one system. But yeah, guys, I hope y'all did enjoy today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like down below and subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.